Okay, so continuing with the setup of the DX9, we're going to talk about all the things in the function menu as opposed to the setup menu. So if you press the from the main screen, if you press the roller once, you get to the function list. You've already seen some of the servo setups, and you can see what they in the travel adjust, that we've got travel adjust for most of the servos. The throttle, right aileron, elevator, rudder, and left aileron all have different than 100-100. And we've already been through that. Sub trims, we do have sub trims for elevator and rudder. Okay, reverse, we had to do reverse for several because of, and we did that when we did the initial testing of the receiver, and so those are all set correctly. Speed, if you have flaps that you want to go at, move the flaps slowly, then that will adjust the speed of the movement of a servo, like for flaps. Okay, absolute travel, we don't need to change. Balance, we don't need to change. So that's it for the servo setup. Okay, the next function in the function list is DR and expo. I'm going to have to explain in detail what DR and expo means. So I'm going to zoom back out for a minute so you can see the sticks. So DR stands for dual rates. You can assign something other than 100% throw of the rudder, the elevator, and the ailerons. You can assign something other than the maximum of 100% through a dual rate. Remember that we've already tampered the servos down by the travel adjust, and that's absolute. Now you can tampen it down further by setting a percentage of the maximum that we've set in the travel adjust, and so that's a second rate. Why do you do that? Okay, well, the manual for the SIG Kadet said, that the elevator should be so many inch or half inch or quarter inch or whatever it was. I forget what it said. It's right here. Okay, so yeah, there we go. So it said that the ailerons were 3/8 up and 3/8 down there. The elevator was 9/16 and the rotor was 1 inch. So that's the maximum. So I consider that to be 100%. Well, sometimes you don't want 100%, and you only want 70% or 60% or 80%. And so that's what the dual rate's going to do. Expo is the exponential, and let me explain what exponential is. When you move the stick in any direction, and I'll say elevator here, it's completely linear. Okay, so one little 1/8 of an inch movement of the stick equals, the identical percentage. So if this is 0 and that's 100% of the throw of the elevator, then that's what you get, is it's completely linear. Okay. Well, exponential means you can have a exponential curve so that the movement here around the center is a little more forgiving, I'll call it. Meaning you can move it more than the linear, and it gives you a finer touch around the center, but you got to make up for it, because when you get down here it's still 100%, and so the exponential curve is softer here but quicker down here. So exponential is good to a point. I like a small amount of exponential. It's a personal choice. It's what you get used to. Some people fly with 40-60% expo. I fly with about 20-25% expo. So it is a personal choice. So now I'm going to zoom back in, and we're going to set up DR and Expo. So in the DR and Expo, in the launch mode, okay,
landing mode, launch mode.
So I'm switching the modes
landing
here.
Mode, launch mode.
On the switch, I want flight mode 1. Okay, flight mode 1, 2,
cruise
or 3.
Mode, landing mode, cruise mode,
Okay.
launch mode.
So in launch mode, I want the dual rate to be 80, and the expo to be 20. That's a positive 20. Expo can be negative. I don't recommend doing negative expo because that really blows your mind. So I like 20. Okay.
Cruise mode.
In cruise mode, now notice everything changed. So that's curve 0, curve
Cruise
1,
mode.
back to 100. So here I'm going to leave it 100% in the dual rate. In cruise mode, I want to have the full throw available to me. In the expo, I want that to be 25. Okay. And then in the landing mode, I'm going to make the dual rate even less than the launch mode. I'm going to make it down to 70% with an expo of about 20. And so that's aileron. Now before I go on, I want to make sure you thoroughly understand this. So I'm going to take this over to the airplane and show you how the aileron behaves with these setups. So let me get back to the main menu. I'm going to turn the camera off and meet you back at the airplane. Okay, so here we're staring at the root of the left aileron. So if I go I'll flip through the modes. I'm in landing mode now.
Cruise mode. Landing mode.
That's landing mode.
Cruise mode.
Cruise mode.
Launch mode.
Launch mode. So we're in launch mode, and in launch mode the dual rate was 80%. So I'm going to move the aileron stick to the right. Actually, I think I'll move it to the left, so that one goes up. It's a little easier to see if it's up. So I'm moving the stick to the left, and you see how far up it is. Okay, now I'm going to hold it to the left and switch to cruise mode.
Cruise mode.
So you can see that's 80%, 100%. 80%, 100%.
Landing mode.
So
Launch mode.
that's 80, 100,
mode.
70.
Mode.
So if I quickly switch from 70% to 80%, it's a little bit higher than 70%. And by the way, if I come over here and aim down a little bit at that aileron, it's doing the same thing.
Landing mode, cruise mode, launch mode.
That's launch mode,
Cruise mode.
cruise mode, landing mode. Okay, so it's just changing the deflection of the aileron to have it slightly less than 100% depending upon what you're doing. I chose the 70, 80, and 100% just out of experience. I might tamper it down even more. I may want landing mode at 60% because you don't need a lot of response in landing. Once you've set up for landing, your ailerons don't do a whole lot because you're gliding to the ground. You actually use a rudder more than your aileron, so that 70 might change to 60 Won't know that till I start flying it. But based on other airplanes I have similar to this, I like these settings to start with. Okay, see you back in a minute. Okay, I'm back and we're going to finish off the DR and Expo. As you've seen, I've done aileron.
Cruise mode, launch mode, cruise mode, landing mode,
And
launch mode.
Now if I switch from aileron to elevator,
cruise mode, landing mode, launch mode.
nothing changes until I switch this to flight mode.
Cruise mode, landing mode, cruise mode, launch mode.
Okay, so now what I'm going to choose is the same 80% on launch, with 20% expo, and cruise will be 100 with 25% expo, and landing mode will be 70 with 20% expo. So all I'm going to do here is repeat the same 70 or 80, 170 that I did for the ailerons for the elevator and rudder. Don't know any better than that guess to start with, and once we get the air, we'll figure it out. So rudder on
launch mode.
On launch mode will be 80% with an expo of 20.
Cruise mode.
Cruise mode will be 100% with 20%. I'm sorry, 25% expo.
Landing mode.
And landing mode will be 70% with 20% expo. Okay, so you might ask, well, what if you don't want it all on one switch? Well, that's certainly possible. You've got lots of switches. Switch C, F. Let me show you where C is. Switch C is a 3-position switch. Switch F over on this side, and then switch G here is another 3-position switch. So those 3 switches can be employed as one for aileron, one for elevator, one for rudder, and so you can independently have, you know, 70% elevator and 100% rudder if you want. I choose not to do this for this airplane. I do that for other airplanes, but not for this airplane. A simple trainer airplane, this is my initial approach. If I find it more advantageous to have a different approach as I get more experience with the airplane, I'll certainly change it. But so my approach here is to not have 3 separate switches for the 3 dual rates, for the 3 control surfaces and the 3 rates that you could have. So that's how I do dual rates, and they're all set up. So DR and Expo is complete now.